It's a privilege and honor to introduce our keynote speaker. This gentleman has been a great asset to the community when it comes to substance abuse, social work, grief and loss. He's well known in the behavioral health industry, not only locally, at a state level and nationally and even internationally. Mr. Ed Cardenas is a licensed independent social worker. He's a graduate, has a master's degree from the University of Denver. He's won many awards for his creativity and working with groups. He's well known as a facilitator in grief and loss and also training the trainer as part of the Grief Education Institute of Colorado. He is certified EWI instructor and has presented training seminars at the local, national, and international levels. He's currently an instructor at UNM-Taos. He's authored many books related to substance abuse, culture, character development, parenting, and he's fortunate to come out soon with a children's book, pretty soon, both in bilingual, English and Spanish. And with that, I'd like to introduce our keynote speaker, Mr. Ed Cardenas.
So, thank you all for being here. I'm excited about being here this morning. For me, it's a great occasion. I don't know how many of us realize it, but I believe that things are going to happen today that maybe we didn't even imagine. The community has gotten together to help those that are in pain, those children that are crying, those youth that are lost, those parents that don't know what to do. We are gathered here today as a community, and my hope and my prayer is that it is just the beginning. I do want to thank Lorenzo because he trusted in me. He and I had a dream a couple of years ago that this would happen someday. And here it is today. I also want to thank the Creator for making this possible. One more time to address my community. I was thinking that over 50 years ago, not to brag, but as a captain of the Taos Tiger football team, I was standing at the plaza and my knees were shaking. I was asking the community to join behind us because we were going to have homecoming. And I still have the same feeling today. But I am asking the community, let's have victory. We can have victory. I've had the privilege of being exposed to communities where the change in a total community started with just one child. But today, we have approximately 300 people gathered here. So, we already have a community group. If I go any further, in the year 2000, I returned to Taos after being gone 40 years. I thought I was going to concentrate. Soon I made up with Jean Sankari from UNM. Through her guidance and openness, she got me to start teaching one course. I was so weak because I was recovering from heart disease. And I remember having to take a nap in the afternoon to have to go teach a 2-hour class. So I never thought I'd be doing too much. But I thank God that in the last 12 years, I've been able to work with probably every community, or rather community program that has to do with substance abuse in Taos. Shadow Mountain, San Cristobal, Yucatán, Drug Court, Rio Grande, UNM, Taos, In God We Trust, and I probably missed some others. And it really thrilled my heart to see some of you people that I've met through the years. It thrills my heart to see you here today. And I really respect you, all of you, for being in the trenches. I know what it's like to be in the trenches. I retired from the Veterans Administration, where I mostly worked with post-traumatic stress disorder, grief and loss, substance abuse, and I know how hard it is. And if you haven't received any thanks for a while or shown any appreciation, I want to thank you for your efforts, for the tears that you shed, for your clients, for the nights you couldn't sleep. Because in this field, it is about giving. And many times, we may not feel appreciated. But today, I want to show appreciation to you. There are maybe some of your clients here, and some have gone on to another life. But I want to stand up here today and ask all of you that are in the trenches to also please stand up. Thank you. Thank you. God bless you. I want to follow the theme. I promised Lawrence that I would try to follow the theme, and I will, as much as I can. Lawrence and I have worked together for a while. Sometimes we agree, sometimes we don't agree. But I'll give you my best shot. He wanted me to stay. He even wrote it for me, stay with that theme. Of recovery. So I'll start talking about recovery, which is part of the theme. And I was looking at some of the current literature of today, 21st century. This is what they're stressing, that it is not just helping the client develop internally to help them empower, but it is also about helping to rebuild their life as it relates to their connection to societal systems, to their family, and other areas. P. Silverstein, who was a good friend of mine back in the 70s, was preaching this, that recovery should be like a rebirth, but not just giving up the substance, but to consider developing in other areas that are affected when people become addicted to substances. It made me feel good also to know that my first little book that I published, Baseball, Balance in Our Relationship World, was emphasizing this back in the 70s. But it feels good that now, in the 21st century, it's being realized. We have more work to do today because of the social problems that affect our clients. It's not just about not drinking. It's not just about not drugging, but it is about helping them develop in other areas of their lives, like the mental, the social, the spiritual, the physical. So there is a lot of work to do. And this is what is recommended in those communities that have had success. Communities that have gone like from 100% controlled by substance abuse to nearly 100% sobriety today. To not just emphasize giving up the substance, but let's help people develop their lives. One of the thoughts was that of a friendly, supportive community. And I did some research. Certainly I should have known what friendly means, but what impressed me was the emphasis on respect and support. And it starts with ourselves. If we're going to make an impact in our society, in our community, with our clients, with ourselves, with our families, it is a must that we have respect. Benito Juárez said, el respeto al derecho ajeno es la paz. Respect to rights is peace. And when we have peace in our hearts, then we can understand. But if we as workers have turmoil, not that we as workers are perfect. The only perfect person that I knew that lived in Taos was Perfecto Jaramillo, my football coach, when I was there. But like they stress in social work, every day, first thing in the morning, to reinvent ourselves. See what's in our heart. Because when we report to work, we're going to take what we have in our heart. And it's sad to hear that 50% of people that were going for counseling will go out worse than what they came in. But there's also research to show that people that have the most success with their clients are those que tienen corazón. Those that have love in their hearts. Those that operate from the language of the heart of respect and traits like this. The other part of the theme was community. There are many definitions for community. One is a body of people that interrelates ecologically for a common purpose. We see examples of this, like in the soldiers, the combat soldiers that I worked with. What united them was a common goal. And today, what unites us is a common goal. I'm sure none of us are here for money. This is not a field where we can get rich. We are here for the people. But we have to interrelate in a positive way. There's got to be community within us, because community starts with us. How are we relating to ourselves emotionally? How are we relating to ourselves mentally? What is our attitude? How are we keeping physically fit and spiritually alive with that strength that keeps us going? It is said that, referring to the Bible, that when one member suffers of a body, all members suffer, and when one member rejoices, all members rejoice. This can be applied to recovery. When our clients first come to us, usually their beach ball is very small and negative, but with time, they start to rebuild it. And this is what Lee Silverstein was saying when he said, recovery is a rebirth. But we have to see the connection. We have to see the connection. Years back, I was working with this Navajo veteran, and he said, Ed, to be alcoholic is to be out of harmony with nature or with the universe. And I thought, wow. When I went to work with the Mayas in southern Mexico, I saw that they had an agriculturist and that they had a veterinarian on their team. And in a very naive way, I asked, well, why? And they said, to treat the people is to treat the land, to treat the animals. There is a connection. There is a connection. There is an interrelation. We are connected to the universe. I don't know how much time we have, Lorenzo, but keep going here. One of the things I want to make sure that I stress is love. Life force. I certainly respect what Victor Beasley said, Dr. Beasley said, and I think he was talking to clinicians as well as all human beings when he said, lead all initiatives with love and creativity. Let love be the foundation for action. And to explore creative means of expressing the force of love personally and professionally. We cannot express love to our clients if we are not loving ourselves personally. It starts here. Aquí empieza. And then he also says to give full license to creative impulses based on love, caring, and compassion. The people that we work with, they've lost too many relationships. They've stopped caring for themselves. And maybe for the first time, you as a counselor, as a worker, as a neighbor, because you don't have to be a counselor. We are all interrelated. If you're a viejito like me and you have a neighbor that's having trouble, you can pray for them. And that's doing our part. If we can care and have compassion, there is nothing more powerful for change than to have love. Because if we have love, we care and we have compassion. But again, like I said, what happens with a substance abuser is that they stop caring about themselves, unfortunately. In mental health, it is said we should never love anyone more than we love ourselves. And I add to that, we should never love anyone or anything more than we love ourselves. In other words, it should be democratic. It should be democratic. And you can argue with me, but you're going to have to argue with the Lord, because He said, love thy neighbor as thyself. Many times we forget about ourselves, and we put the emphasis on our clients, and we can become codependent, not just in living with an alcoholic, but we can become codependent by putting too much of our emphasis in those that we help. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't help, we should give them our heart, but there should be a balance where we leave something for ourselves. One of the exciting things about community is that, and it's just like working with the individual client, is that Every client will be different. And like the Austrian-born Israelite philosopher said, in spite of all similarities, every living situation has, like a newborn child, a new face that has never been before or will never come again. It demands of you a reaction that cannot be prepared for beforehand. And that's the beauty about working with community or the individual client. I read a while ago about Dr. Beasley where he talked about being creative in love. Well, here's an opportunity when we're working with community to really be creative. Because we don't really know what's going to happen today. I know Lord has some plans and I have some ideas. My dreams are that after we have our breakout sessions, that people will feel in their hearts some commitment to do something for that community, and that they will come out with some ideas and solutions, but not just with ideas, but to put them into action, because it is time. We don't really have to do the research on the needs. We know that it's here. Drugism is here. It has become like a societal system, like the education system, like the political system. It's here. It's here. Our children are dying. Our youth are destroying themselves. Our adults are dying prematurely because alcohol takes at least 16 years of our life. We die 16 years sooner than the general population. One basic way that I have taught students through the years is through and I'm not trying to sell beach ball books, actually, I'm not even selling them anymore. I sold, I pretty much gave them to my last class at half price. I'm not selling anymore. But three concepts that I think will help us understand the connection that we as individuals, or as a family, or a community, how we interrelate. One is a system is a whole composed of interrelated parts. And if we wouldn't have systems, we wouldn't have any matter. But again, what sustains any system, like an 8-cylinder engine, is the interrelated parts. The other basic concept is balance. Balance is a must for any system. Whether we're looking at the atom, or whether we're looking at the solar system, the connection between Earth and the sun. People that know these things say that if we were just one fraction closer to the sun, we would burn. Or one fraction out of balance, a little further, we would freeze to death. So balance is very important to any system. The other concept is that of change. When there is significant change in one part, it affects the total. When daddy develops substance abuse, it affects mom, it affects every child, it affects every member of the family. And not only just the family, but it affects other parts of what I call the relationship world. There should be a frame on the relationship world. We can show it there. When substance abuse becomes a part of the individual to the point that it's controlling, or we could call it addiction, or it starts to affect the family and the community, there are different areas of our beach ball that can be affected. I'll start with the self. Mentally, there is a loss of contact with reality. I've had people tell me, yeah, the reason I drank is because of the mice. M-I-C-E. But it is not until the person, and this is reinforced in AA, when the person can realize and accept that I have a problem. When reality becomes a part of the person, then we are on our way to recovery. The other part that's affected is the social part, the physical part. If we would go to Holy Cross Hospital, probably 65–70% of the people that are there because of physical problems are there because of alcohol-related problems. Emotionally, it is a center where codependence is breeded. Children that are raised in an alcoholic home, where children are abused mentally or emotionally or physically, and they are never provided the opportunity to express these feelings, they are primed to become codependent, because these little traumatic experiences that happen every day or every other day can add up to become a trauma, just like a situational trauma. Just like if all of a sudden here, they would say the building is burning and we would all run out of here. It turns into a trauma, and one of the things that causes codependence is the fact that children or spouses are not provided the opportunity to express those feelings. They are suppressed. Another area where people are affected is spiritually. And spirituality is life. And it's got many characteristics, but one of them is to believe. The alcoholic so many times does not believe that he can change or she can change. But there is power in that theory that I am who you say I am. If you as a worker can convey to that client that I believe in you, that can be a start. There's been research after research with teachers also, those that can connect and can convey to the student that you can. O como decía César Chávez, sí se puede. Sí se puede, it can be done. As it relates to the family, unfortunately, there are many things that happen and I really don't have time. On the PowerPoint, I put together a complete PowerPoint, but if any of you are interested in getting a copy of it, I'd be glad to email you a copy of it.
Ed, we will put it on the website for the summit.
Okay. And I do want to mention that as it relates to the family, children that are raised in an alcoholic family will probably become alcoholics 4 times more than the general population, or have other drug problems. There will certainly be problems in interpersonal relationships. So many times, the marriage ends up in divorce. As it relates to societal systems, and it has an impact when the individual has a problem with substances, and when the family also has problems. There are many health problems that can develop, and they're raising the time back there, so I'm going to stop here, but it creates a safety hazard. You know that as you were driving today to this conference, that probably 50% of the people were under the influence of either a legal or illegal drug. We could look at the cost, it's in the billions. And I've run out of time, but they keep raising that 5 minutes. I'm going to end it. Communities that recover, become aware. I've worked with communities where we've gone in to try and educate them, and they say, do we really have a problem? There's not going to be any change until we are aware. There's not going to be any change till we own it. It's probably the number one social problem, but do we hear any politician say, and I love our politicians say, we've got to address this problem? But if we're going to make an impact, and if we can agree that the answer comes from the community, that it is a community problem, and the answer should come from the community problem, from within the community rather, then that means that every segment of the community should get involved. Not just being a provider. That's just one part. We need parents to get involved. We need viejitos like me to get involved. We need the clergy involved. We need educators involved. We need our youth involved. We need the parents involved. We need a whole community involvement. And if we can leave this summit with at least a general idea of what we're going to do the rest of the year, we're in process. And I'm going to end it now.
In times like this, a clamor is heard. A clamor is heard with so much pain. Our children are dying, the whole world is crying. In times like this, a clamor is heard. Who wouldn't want to go calm the pain and bring some comfort to those in despair? Who would be willing to go calm the pain? If you listen with your heart, the clamor you'll hear. A clamor is heard throughout the world. What is happening to our youth? Why all the killing themselves, others, young mothers killing their own children? What do innocent little children have to do with anything? No one has any answers. But we, as a community, we have to teach our children, since they're very young, to cope with everyday problems and strives. Teach them self-worth, respect, and compassion for others, so they don't turn to weapons and drugs. What else can we possibly do? Pray to God, and heaven help us all. En estos tiempos se oye un clamor, se oye un clamor con tanto dolor. Niños muriendo, el mundo llorando. En estos tiempos se oye un clamor. ¿Quién no quisiera calmar el dolor? Si tu corazón escucha, oyes el clamor. ¿Quién no pudiera quitar el dolor? Si tu corazón escucha, oyes el clamor. clamor de estos tiempos que se oye por todo el mundo. ¿Qué está pasando con nuestra juventud? ¿Por qué se están matando solos a otros? Madres jóvenes matando a sus hijos. Solo Dios sabe lo que contiene toda esta violencia. Nosotros solamente podemos y debemos enseñarle a nuestros hijos desde niños a lidiar con los problemas y conflictos de cada día, no con armas, sino con respeto y compasión para otros, y rezar que Dios quede bien servido con nuestras luchas. ¿Qué otra cosa podemos hacer? Dios nos libre de estas tragedias.